can you share with us a little bit about how long you've been working with theater students, and how did you get involved in all of this?
That's a good question to start off with. I've been working in higher education administration for 23 years and working exclusively with drama students. So I've run various programs along the way, study abroad programs, and done recruitment in the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center. And then I've been here at Tisch for 10 years, just celebrated my 10-year anniversary a couple months ago. And I got into this because I majored myself in theater and dance at Trinity College in Connecticut. And Trinity had a program in New York for students to come and study experimental theater for a semester. And once I had graduated from school and was living in New York and, pursuing an acting career and temping and cater waitering and doing all that, I called from Trinity. And they said, hey, listen, we need someone to work, help run our Trinity program down at La Mama Theater. And would you be interested? And I said, yes, that's way more up my alley. So I began that, and that was my kind of move into higher education. So I was able to do performing and that at the same time, and eventually moved into, just really doing this now full time. So.
Oh, that's very exciting. And it shows that, there's not a one direction or a one path for students in this area and in many other areas too. Right. So you mentioned going to the program in Trinity. One of the questions one of our viewers had was, from a professional standpoint, are there any advantages for a student to attend a top program like Tisch or like Northwestern with name recognition, or a program like Trinity or some other program where they might have more opportunity to stand out through being in plays and things like that? So do you have any recommendations on how to weigh those two things?
That's so the name recognition, I mean, it's not a bad thing. Mm-hmm. Also, what comes with working in a school or going through a department, be it a BFA program or a BA program, the alumni network can become extremely valuable for you. Certainly, some of the more top schools perhaps may open some doors. People recognize the school, they may know about the training, and they may say, okay, this person has had good, solid training. We know that's a good school, and does, it produces really great artists, and so we'd be happy to work with this person. If it's a lesser known school, they may not know. So then, you're certainly, I think either way, you'll be relying on the audition and things like that. But, you walk into an audition room, and the director sees on your resume your school, and they say, hey, you went to this school? I went to this school. And then all of a sudden, your resume is now in another pile, So there's a value in the alumni, and looking at the school that you're going to. And certainly a larger school has a larger alumni network, so that can work to your advantage. So I think, but as we do in educational consulting and working with students to find schools that fit them, it still should be about that. It still should be that students should examine the departments, the drama programs in the schools that they're looking to go to see if it really speaks to them, and really works for them. So sure, a big school could be great, but there are some really wonderful programs that are at smaller schools, and where you said, the smaller, like at Trinity was teeny. We had three of us in my class, three. At Tisch, we had 400 coming in every year. And for me, there were three of us. So that meant I got to do a lot of shows, just like what you're saying. So it gave me the opportunity to do more than maybe I would have at in a larger department. So you're right. There are pros and cons to both of those.
And I think that it really highlights the value of what we bring as advisors, whether it's independents or, school counselors or things, is because we can help students weigh that, and with that focus on the best fit. So I think that makes a lot of sense. So you talked about these different programs, and one of the other questions that people have a lot, that parents ask us and students aren't as familiar with, is the difference between doing a conservatory and, as you mentioned, a BFA, and getting a BA, and maybe going to a comprehensive college where the program's one of the departments within the school. So is there any advantages or disadvantages going one direction or the other?
Well, I would say first, it goes back to what's right for the student. I would say, like, in the spectrum of schools, on one end, you have a full conservatory program, like say at Juilliard, and it'd be kind of all theater all the time, with little to no outside of theater academics. You'll have theater studies courses in dramatic literature and theater history and dramatic theory, things like that. But any outside of theater, you'll have very few, if any, general education courses, right?
Mm-hmm.
On the other end of the spectrum, you've got the liberal arts college or university, where academics is your focus, and maybe you major in theater, but what that major in theater, it won't have the intensity or the immersive nature of conservatory training. Where your classes in acting, singing, and dancing are classes just like your English, philosophy, and history classes would be. So if you've got 5 classes to choose from that semester, you're balancing your academics and your arts major, right? There are other programs. Tisch is one that falls in the middle of that, where we have 3 days of conservatory training and 2 days of academic training. So there's more of a balance between the artistic and academic curricula. So Emerson would be another one like that. So it's not that one of these kind of things is better than the other. It's really, again, what's right for a student. If your student is super keen on the theater stuff and maybe isn't as strong academically, well, maybe a conservatory might be a better place for them. If they're really strong academically and they're saying, well, I like theater, I love it, I'm not sure if I want to do it as a career, I'm not really sure, but I'd like to be able to do it. Well, then maybe a liberal arts college is good for that, because then you can have your theater experience while still excelling in your academics. And then, like I said, then there's the in between, where you could be getting, training for the career. Like, that's what the BFA is there to do. We're saying that we're training you to do this professionally. So if you graduate with a BFA, you have the skills and the tools you need to go and embark on this career. In a BA, you're getting training, you're getting theory, you're getting all of that stuff, but again, it's not the deliciously long days of acting classes and singing classes and dance and movement and script analysis and scene study and improvisation and all that wonderful stuff you're doing for 9 hours a day. It's so they differ in the in-class time as well.
So when a student comes to us as a counselor, as an advisor, and says, my professional goal is to become an actor and actress in musical theater, if they really want to pursue that, then they need to find a program that's really going to help them and highlight the opportunities. So that sounds more of like a conservatory type of approach. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
I would say, if they can. It is tough with some of these conservatories, especially in the top schools. They take so few people.
Right.
So it can be, that's where you would say, yes, I would love to train at one of these top musical theater programs, but let's also keep a couple of other schools or a few other schools on the list that are great schools and that have strong theater departments and they do a lot of musical theater in that school, so I could still get experience and training. Mm-hmm. In the event that I'm not one of the 16 that are picked for one of these schools,
Exactly. Well, and that brings up another question too that I had for you is, how do you, with an athlete, like when an athlete comes in and says, I want to do Division I football, you send them to the coach and say, here, coach, assess the student. Are they capable of doing this or not? How do you do that for a student who's in theater or performing arts? How do you help them assess their real, true talent for that?
That is a very good question that I'm asked sometimes, in that, if someone says, can you just assess the student so that we can decide whether or not they should pursue this or not. And that, if it's that type of assessment, then that's a little hard to do, because, I wouldn't want to be, crushing anyone's dreams. If someone is really, really interested in studying this art form and pursuing it, on the one hand, we could say, go for it. And the schools will decide, you can audition for these schools. You'll get in or you won't get in, but at least you will have done, you will have made an effort towards your dreams and followed them to as far as you could go there. I think where assessment can be valuable is working with your drama teachers, your voice teachers, dance teachers, things like that, to kind of get a sense of, okay, what are my strengths? And then what do I need work on? Like, what am I not getting, or if I have hardly taken any dance classes. So, okay, we'll get into a dance class. So at least you're giving yourself the opportunity or the advantage of learning how to pick up choreography. So by the time you get to auditioning schools, you'll be able to do that. So just to give yourself the best chances of success. But if that's what the teachers will do, a drama teacher will do, and a voice teacher will do, is they'll say, okay, you're excelling here, but we need to work on this stuff and kind of strengthen this part up there, or you might want to work on this over the summer, or things like that. Those might be your best evaluators, in a sense, and they're your advocates too, because they're your teachers. And they're going to want you to
right.
But it's hard to say, tell us if the student is good or not. Should they bother with this? And I kind of feel like, I wouldn't want to say that. I'm like, let them do it if they want to do it, but they can work to strengthen their presentation as much as they can.
That's like saying, oh, well, you should go to college. You shouldn't go to college. How many people have we've heard that said their counselor or somebody told them, oh, don't worry about college. And they've been able to rise above and, excel in unimaginable ways. So like my very own college counselor, or my own counselor, threw away my application for college. So, I'm glad I didn't have to depend on them to go to college, or I would have been up the creek. So, right now I want to remind our audience, and people already, I have tons of questions for you. So we're going to start answering questions, but I'm going to ask you one more. Those of you that are listening, if you want, make sure you go to the questions section at either the bottom or the top of your screen and, put in questions. And if we don't have time for Chris to answer questions, all of the questions, because I know this topic generates quite a number of questions, Chris will send them to you afterwards, and we'll make those available. Okay. All right. So in regards to this, do you have any tips for students? You've seen tons and tons of auditions. There are certain things that you wish students knew before they came in to help them to be best prepared for an audition. What do you recommend as for tips for students in that regard?
I would say a couple of things to know. One is that we're on your side. That's really important. That we're not an adversary. We're there. We want you to succeed. And I would say that goes for the professional world too, not only just for college. Anyone doing auditions wants the person walking in to be like, yes, they'd be perfect for this. So we are on your side. We're also educators. So we are happy to educate students. So we are looking at you in that way, that you're a student who's aspiring to do this. And sure, let's get a sense of where you are. I think these artistic reviews that you'll encounter over the course of your college application process, they're there to help us understand, just where you are in your own artistic development. We're not necessarily, certainly I can speak from where I'm working, but we're not comparing you to each other. we're because people, come from different schools that have different opportunities to do theater in them. We have people have discovered theater at different points in their lives, so we feel like people are at all different sort of levels of experience, and that's okay. We're here to train you. So wherever you're at in your own artistic growth is great. What we're trying to do is just learn where that is. So I think going knowing that we are a friendly, receptive audience for you should be an important thing. Another thing, and this is something, sounds very cliche and maybe cheesy to say, but be yourself. Those two words, we say them, and they really are, they're so important. And especially in this kind of work, we're trying to get to know you, right, through this artistic review process. So the best thing you can do is help us get to know you by just being you. Don't think about what we want to hear, because we, for example, we do watch your monologues, and then we also have a conversation with you. So don't think about what you should probably say or what would be the best sounding thing, or just answer honestly. Just be honest and be yourself, because we're trying to see if you're a good fit for our program. So we don't want you to be this other you, this other robot you. We want you to be the you, like the real you, so we can see what does this person like to do? What are they like? What's their personality like? And see if this is a student that we feel we would like to have in our community. So the more that you can help us get to know you through this process, the better. So you're an expert on yourself, really, right? So that should be the easy part, just to answer questions. So I think those two things are very important. And then, of course, being prepared is really important, because while we are a receptive audience, we're also expecting a certain level of preparation and readiness from you, from the students. So that's an important thing, that your monologues memorize, that you feel very very confident with your audition material, because that will also that will give you confidence and a slight less panic when you're in the audition room. If you're saying, listen, I sing these songs really well, I do this monologue really well, so I'm just going to do them, and then it's out of your hands after that. So just to be confident and know your material well is another, I think, really important thing to do, to know ahead.
So in terms of that, and that's so hard. I mean, that's something, a message that we really convey to students, and yet they're just so intimidated by this. It can be really scary. So hearing you say that and then being able to reinforce that is so beneficial. It's very powerful. Yeah. But just like college essays, there's certain essays like the big game essay and things. Are there certain monologues or certain areas that you would say be a little more original? Are there certain things that you see over and over again that if I hear the same part from this this play or this movie, that you've got to be really exceptional? Are there certain things that you've heard over and over again? How can they be fresh and original with that?
Well, I would say a couple things. At our school, we don't have what some people call a no list. So we don't have a list of things saying, please don't do these monologues. I'm sure that all of the faculty that do the auditions, like I think all of us would have some ones that we would maybe not necessarily need to hear again. But I also feel that we could assign the same monologue to every single applicant. Mm-hmm. It's going to be different every single time. It's like a standard, like a song from the 40s, right? Someone Who'll Watch Over Me. We all know the song, but when Ella Fitzgerald sings it, it sounds different from when Dinah Washington sings it. It sounds different from when Etta James sings it. So, the monologue could be the same, but your interpretation will be different. So that's why we don't say there are any that we shouldn't see. Also, what you choose, the material you bring in, tells us a little something. It's a little bit more information that we have about you. And then I would say I had a thought and it went away, but I think one type of monologue that maybe is not appropriate is a monologue about auditioning. There are a couple monologues out there where they're like, I'm so nervous, and like this whole nervous thing is happening. They were like, are you nervous? Is that the character being nervous? Like, who's nervous? And like, are you acting? Because you're probably really nervous right now. And so I think that might be not a monologue to do, is one about auditioning for something. I mean, there are a million other things out there. So, and find, I would say then, material that jazzes you, that gets you excited. If you're reading plays and you're looking for monologues and you find one, you're like, oh, this character is so interesting, I can't wait to get my hands on this person, that's the monologue that you should do. Because that passion, that enthusiasm for the material, that will shine through in all of these auditions that you're going to do for all of these schools, you know? So if you have joy doing the monologue, we'll have joy watching you do the monologue, you know? If you're having a good time, we'll have a good time. So to think about finding material that you relate to, that speaks to you, and that is, you know, kind of in a way personal to you, it'll resonate much more loudly, I think.
So it sounds, yes, no, perfect. And it goes back to what you're saying, is that's part of being authentic and being who you are, and finding a monologue or something that you are enthusiastic about, that you can connect to and relate to, and then project that through your audition. And so it also goes to, that's not something you start a week before you come to the audition, right? You know, you can start it even a year ahead of time, so that you can look and explore, and this fits or this doesn't. So now that we're getting to a lot, I'm seeing people are asking a lot of different questions. So let me run some of this by you. For summertime, what do you expect? And this kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. What kind of preparation should students do? Peggy asked, would you say there's an advantage to auditioning? Well, that's not the right one. You know, besides just doing summer theater or community theater, what other kinds of things do you think students should be trying to do during the summer before coming to?
I think certainly doing, you know, if you're involved with it, there's a community theater there. The more theater you can do before you have to enter into this whole process, you know, the more you do, the more comfortable you'll be in the arena of theater, and therefore that'll translate into confidence in your auditions, because you'll be like, you know, this is not new to me. So that kind of experience is certainly good. I think as far as preparation, certainly what we were just talking about, read plays, you know, you can start reading plays junior year, but that can happen through the summertime. And when you've got more free time, great. If you found a couple of monologues, you know, a few monologues that you're like, these might be good, well, then you have more time to work on them before you start school again in September. And then you're into like school stuff and the play for your senior year in the fall and like all that stuff. Use this summertime, because you know, if you take your time and you work through the material, the monologues, you work on them, maybe you put them down for a little bit because you go on vacation or you go up to a camp, and then you pick them up again a little later in the summer and work on them a little bit more, and then you put them down again, and then, you know, as the summer's kind of winding up, you pick it up again, because that stuff sinks in your head, and then you discover new things along when you pick it up again, because the other stuff is in there, and all of a sudden, ooh, this is new. So you can use that time for the development of your audition material. I would say if you're auditioning for musical theater, and you feel, and a lot of students haven't had that much dance experience, classes would be great, because you're going to be going into these dance calls and people are going to be teaching you a combination right there in the room. And the more dance class experience you have picking up choreography, the easier that's going to be for you, and less terrifying. And then you can actually dance and do your thing, because you're not going to be like freaking out. I mean, I can so easily remember when I was younger and these dance calls, and they were terrified. Oh man, now I'm making everyone scared. But I mean, they were scary if you were not confident as a dancer, because I hadn't had that much dance experience. And it was so scary because you're also worrying like, well, everyone else in here has probably had a lot of experience, and then it just makes you crazy. So if you can get dance classes, it'll just be so helpful, and that piece of, if, or really whatever the part of musical theater, you've got acting, singing, and dance auditions, you know. So if there's a part you need summer's the time. That summer is going to be the time to, you know, beef that part up.
Definitely. And just trying out all those different things. So you don't have to be limited in the area you're in. You can find lots of different opportunities.